You're listening to the Major Pod Network, the only place where your favorite toy store, card shop, arcade, theme park, and arena are all on the same block. Scratch that major itch.
This is Tony Chimmel, and I'd like to introduce the hosts of the Game Marks podcast, George Feis and Johnny Clash.
Welcome to the Game Marks podcast presented by the Major Pod Network. I am Mr. Anything is Feasible, George Feis.
And I'm the man they call Johnny Clash, and today we are covering the lies and lawsuits that changed wrestling video games forever, an article by David Bixenspan of Wrestling Inc. We also discuss WWE 2K23 reveals, and we get heated and take each other to Game Marks court.
Oh, not really looking forward to that one, but please subscribe and leave a 5-star review for this podcast on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow us on all forms of social media at Game Marks Pod, and do not forget, you can get early and ad-free episodes of this podcast right over at patreon.com/GameMarksPod. Johnny Clash, we got something we got to talk about before we get into this week's episode. Rest in peace to Jay Briscoe, and we over here send our condolences to the family of Jay Briscoe. Man, oh man.
Yeah, that one hit a little. It was like on the level of Brody, I guess, if not even more. I think I could honestly say that if it wasn't for those early Ring of Honor shows I used to go to, I probably never would have stepped in a ring. I probably wouldn't be doing this podcast right now. And I think the Briscoes were like a really big part of that. And I actually went back and I was trying to find some pictures from like those events. I found a few, but for some reason there was like, it was Kevin Steen there was like no pictures of, and the Briscoes and Adam Cole. And that's because they were all videos. I was sitting there taking videos of their entrances, winning titles. Oh my God. Like those are some of my favorite wrestling memories, sitting in Hammerstein Ballroom, the early afternoon shows, the meet and greets. It was just such a good time. And yeah, I mean, a lot of that was in part to, if not mostly in part to, the Briscoes. So rest in peace, Jay. They said it at the end of Dynamite. I think Mark is more than equipped to carry the legacy of the name on his shoulders. So I'm excited to see where he's going to go with that, especially in AEW and Ring of Honor. So that should be pretty cool.
Yep. But moving on from that, let's talk about what we played last week. Fire Pro Gaiden Blazing Tornado. Arguably one of the harder games that we've ever played.
I'm going to say this. One of the worst games we've ever played. And you think Fire Pro, they're all the same, they're all good. No, this one was a little different. Go back and listen to the episode. We break it all down. It's a little more Street Fighter-ish, but it's hard. It's an arcade-style game. It just did absolutely zero for me. I never want to play it again. And that's why we make our assessments here, so we know what to play in the future and what not to. And Fire Pro Gaiden, you're fired.
But moving on to bigger and better things, John, let's talk about some news that we didn't know if we were going to get this year. And not only did we get news, but this is going to happen a lot sooner than we think. WWE 2K23, John Cena on the cover, 3 exclusive covers, the Standard Edition, the Deluxe Edition, and the Icon Edition. Each cover super unique in their own right, each depicting a different part of John Cena's career, but each awesome in their own right.
I love all of them, honestly. And the Icon Edition, if you pre-order, you get Batista as Leviathan, you get Brock Lesnar from O2, prototype John Cena, and Randy Orton from O2. So you're getting some OVW vibes in there, which is pretty cool. I'm not sure if they're going to put a OVW type arena in there. I don't think they can get I mean, they could acquire the license. I think it's Al Snow that owns it now.
Was it you who said that they might do something where it's like they throw up an OVW logo in like the NXT arena or just like on the
Yeah,
generic,
like
and they're just like, oh look, the ring ropes, or like you're in the regular Raw arena, but oh look, there's OVW logos everywhere, and the ring ropes are different colors.
Or like high school gym arena, and they
and
just
there's
throw those
OVW
guys
stuff,
in there.
yeah.
I don't know. It's possible, but
There's
this
ways that
year's-
they can get around it. We've seen them work some magic before where they
Yeah.
wouldn't really be depicting the most accurate place, but somehow it works.
We like the authenticity, but if that's all we can get, that's all we can get. But the John Cena showcase, unlike the Rey Mysterio one and the ones of the past where you got the cutscenes, you're going to have the cutscenes again, unfortunately. So the YouTube videos we put out are not going to be as good because we got to wipe all those cutscenes out or we get flagged. But this year's showcase is all the times John Cena lost. And I think the one standout that everybody wanted that we're going to get is RVD at ECW One Night Stand 2.
Yeah, that's a real good one. I also was thinking, oh, did he win that match? Who won the Fiend match? Did John Cena win that?
I don't remember.
Because
So it's
reliving
possible.
that in video game form would be wild.
Oh, Firefly Funhouse.
Yeah,
I
because then
think the Fiend won. I could be wrong. I think the Fiend won that.
because then you could get like NWO John Cena.
That would be funny. They
there's-
could include that. But you're getting his debut against Kurt Angle. I guess that's the prototype skin you're going to get.
Yep.
But then you get Brock, Triple H, Batista, Miz, The Rock at WrestleMania, Undertaker, Roman Reigns, AJ. You get all those matches. I forget that Cena and AJ even happened.
God, that Cena AJ match was so good.
Now I'm remembering like the heel turn from AJ and all. Oh, it was so good. So good. Your pre-order bonus this year is going to be Bad Bunny, which...
This is just what they're gonna be doing. Who's the pre-order bonus for 2K22?
Wasn't it Machine Gun Kelly? Or was he just
He was
DLC?
Logan Paul and Machine Gun Kelly were DLC. The pre-order was. Oh, gotta do some quick research.
Was it Dominic? Or he was just in the game?
The 2K22 pre-order?
Oh, you got... Well, there was the NWO edition.
that. There was the NWO, and you got the Taker skins.
Yes. But other than that, it says there's more to the GM mode. You can now add additional shows. You have multiple seasons, which is, I think, a big complaint a lot of people had. Just kind of ended. You went on to a next one. Expanded match cards. And you can play up to 4 players now. And also, more GMs to choose from to take over.
It's very interesting. So, I think we should actually slate to do in this game what we said we were going to do with 2K22. And maybe try to go through GM mode together. It could be fun. Maybe we can record a bunch one night and just release them periodically. Could be fun. But graphically, it looks the same, which
The
is
same.
not a bad thing.
But, what's your but?
Oh, I was going to say I want you to say the match.
No, forget about the match. Last year, the PC version was the PS4, Xbox One version. So now I'm going to assume we're a year later, the PC version has to be the next-gen version, right?
It better.
So it will look better for more than half of the people playing it.
Yeah,
But
the load times for me was the thing that killed me
That was-
in
that was
2K22. It was anytime you play with a creator wrestler going through the my career mode, my God, the load times were insane.
the thought of having to like remake my characters is exhausting. Like I wish you could transfer them, but that takes out the appeal of most of the game for some people. Like, what would content creators really be building then? But I don't want to create my character again, so I'm
What if
probably not
they
gonna
remove some stuff, and so you just make GMP, man. It's so much easier.
Yeah, I retired now, so I don't have to make myself
Throw
anymore.
a mask on, and you're good.
But the match George was talking about, what we're finally getting in a video game. So one day when we do the video game history of War Games matches, this is where it's going to start. We got War Games, baby.
Hell
War Games
yes.
has entered the chat. Now, there's one match type left that I think I want to see, and it derives... It's not the Triple Cage, which we know we want to see.
Son of
World War III, the WCW match. It was 3 rings, and they were all different heights. And at the end, you have to move towards the middle ring.
Oh.
I know that's a lot of space to take up in a game in an arena like real life. But if you're unfamiliar, check it out. But it was so cool. It was like their Rumble.
I feel like, is that the match where everyone...
They all start in the ring.
Is that the one where Sid gives Luger a power bomb and he hits his head on the top of the cage? Is that
No, there's no cage.
What match is that?
That's War Games.
That's War Games? That
Yeah.
cage was so short.
Well, WCW had the top on it.
I know. but
WWE
it's
said,
so,
nuh-uh.
It's so short.
Yeah. Well, I want World War III. I want the 3 rings. I think it's
Yeah.
super cool, and why not? Why not? Maybe
with
it's
it.
something NXT will bring back since they like doing the WCW stuff.
I am with it.
But okay, we've been saying it the past few weeks. I'm going to say it right now. In my hands, I have an Elite 94 WWE Mattel Edge figure in his white gear from WrestleMania. It's such a nice figure. Look at that. Look at that right there.
Beautiful.
I would keep it for myself if I could. All you have to do is leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, screenshot that review, and send it to us on Twitter at GameMarksPod. And you were entered to win until February, what was it? The February 3rd, next Friday.
There we go.
And then back there in my little pile of stuff, I have another giveaway for next month. So it's also a very good figure.
But hey, in the background, behind you, what's in the pile of all your Sting buddies? These I see a little familiar face back there. I see there's you.
Well, you got one behind you too as well.
Oh, so I do. Look at that.
Head on over to GameMarksPodcast.BigCartel.com and you can get your very own GMP buddy. Now, if you grew up with wrestling buddies like me, these are perfect. I have them sitting over there with all my stingers. If you want to know what size, they're more in line with... They're like a little smaller than the AEW buddies and a little bigger and flatter than the TNA ones.
Are they like the new size of the major pod buddies?
That I don't know.
I think they're along that size of the new one. Not the first generation where they're the actual size of like the Slam buddies. These are smaller than that.
Yeah, they're a little smaller, but they're great. You could put them anywhere. That was my heating pad on my back telling me your time is up.
I was just going to say, I was like, what the hell was that? Did you see my whole facial expression change? Because I immediately thought it was my computer. And
I was like, what the hell? Me too. Me and George got lunch today, for those who care, and I waddled over to him because
I felt so bad.
My back is out, so I am sitting on a heating pad right now, and the timer was up. So that's all you need to know. Anyway, GMP buddies, go buy one. George.
Support John's back problems.
George, are you ready to put your suit on, get your briefcase, and head to court as we cover this case?
I'm ready for this one. I'm not ready for later. But let's do it. Let's take the deep dive, sponsored by Zavi.
Hey, George. You see this light here that says Game Over that I point to at the end of every single episode, like Ronda Rousey pointing to that WrestleMania sign?
I do.
Do you know where I got it?
Why don't you tell me?
I got it from Zavi. That's us.zavi.com, Z-A-V-V-I, and they literally have everything. I have spent hours on this website looking up Mandalorian, Jurassic Park, Harry Potter, like everything you could imagine. There's Legos, Power Rangers. You could pre-order the new Marvel Legends. It's an insane website that has literally everything pop culture. There's even Batman shoes on here.
I mean, I know for me, a little like adult Zen garden project that I like to do is like the smaller Lego sets, and Zavi has a lot of those Lego sets on there and getting kind of itchy. So if you like all things pop culture, like John said, Disney, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, Harry Potter, Nintendo, they're even getting into the wrestling game now.
Oh yeah.
Zavi is the place for you.
That's right. Use code GameMarks, simply just GameMarks, at checkout, and you can get 10% off.
I'm going to redo my wardrobe.
Wait. Before we start this, I want to hear it. We're going to put it right here. I need that little hi-hat courtroom TV.
Dun, 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 dun. That's the People's Court theme. Dun, 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 dun.
Part of me wants to put like the Law and Order music in there. Dun, 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 dun,
Or just give me a, like right when we come out, just put the bung bung.
Or
or no, the People's Court really works best because I'm pretty sure the bunk bunk is the is SVU, which is like like the worst of the worst.
Oh yeah. All right, man. The lies and lawsuits that changed wrestling video games forever. We've all heard about this court case. We all lived through it. It's a very confusing case. I'm going to say right now, head on over to Wrestling Inc., where you could find this article by David Bixenspan. You could read his words. It's a very well put together article, I think, for people who want to know about this case, to have it all listed out in order, in sections. He did a really great job of just organizing it and making it human, I guess you could say. Like there's the little courtroom mumbo jumbo in there that we might not fully know the terms and like understand it, but
I think legalese is the term.
Legalese, but we know it. We know it.
So do you want to? We'll just start at the beginning, where it starts. It's 1998.
A little backstory,
and we need more wrestling games. So WWE's decade-long deal with Acclaim has come to an end, and you know Acclaim from a bunch of games that we've covered on the history of this podcast, available in the archives. You got WWF Raw, WWF Royal Rumble, WrestleMania the arcade game in your house, Warzone, Attitude, and at the same time, WCW's relationship with THQ is also coming to an end. And you know that from WCW versus the World Tour, Nitro, Revenge, Thunder. Again, all games that we have played.
A who's who of I think I'll play Revenge.
And yeah, you know, every time we list out games like this, it's crazy to see. Like, there's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We've played all 12 of these games. Like, I just named 12 games, and we're like, yeah, we have all of those are available in the
thing
archive.
is, we played all of these before the podcast even started too.
These
are our childhood games here. So that's why this kind of hits like closer to us, because we followed this whole saga with the games and all that. And really, after this section, WCW isn't even involved in this. When I first saw this article, I'm like, is this a legal battle between WWF and WCW? But it's not.
That's what I thought it was when originally this brought up. I was like, oh, there must have been like some overlapping in contracts, and that's like maybe there was a delay that we didn't know, because when these games came out, that we were kids, we didn't know. We were like, oh no, I guess we're not getting a game this year or whatever. But it's crazy, and it's also very weird to think that in 1998, Acclaim and THQ are not.
Yes, Max Caster and Anthony Bowens.
Yes, the game developers. Yeah, that Acclaim and THQ
walking around scissoring each other.
It's a lot of cutting in all of their games. It's crazy. That they're not that Acclaim and THQ are not what they are today. Like, you think of the lineage of games, for better or for worse, that Acclaim has, and the same for THQ. Everyone remembers them for Revenge and No Mercy and World Tour, but maybe not so much for Thunder and Nitro versus the World and stuff. And it's crazy to think that in 1998 they were not as popular or well known.
No, they were more, I think, like movie-based games, TV show-based games, more like, for like kids and
like Addams Family video games and stuff like that.
I think Jurassic Park,
TV show, pop culture games.
I think Bigfoot and all those like Game Boy games. You weren't too familiar with the two companies. I don't think I knew who THQ was when I picked up my first wrestling game. I'm like, oh, cool, THQ, man, let's play as him. But this is where it kind of starts to unravel, because Electronic Arts and Activision had their foot in the race. Activision was trying to make the play towards WWF, and Electronic Arts, as we know, with Mayhem and Backstage Assault, went the WCW route. The crazy thing throughout this whole story is none of these companies are even like remotely as big right now as EA Sports, who made the worst WCW games.
But think of Activision now. Like, Activision in 2023 compared to what it was in 1998.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Not even close.
Who could have seen that come? Like,
right, but THQ and Acclaim are. We'll get to THQ Nordique later on.
Yeah.
But, oh man. Okay, so let's talk about the sales right now because
This
the
is
revenue
wild.
from WCW versus the World only under PlayStation's Greatest Hits accounted for 88% of THQ's revenue in the first quarter of '98, which is crazy. That's a crazy number, especially because it's WCW versus the World.
It's not, I would say it's not even World Tour. It's not even what a lot of
Right.
people consider to be the good one.
That's up 40% from the 1997 sales. So that's a little crazy. And now Acclaim, in their 1993 press release, they didn't really give the numbers, but they credit WWF WrestleMania for high sales numbers in stores, and they were not able to keep them on the shelves for 2 to 3 days. This was back in '93, so I guess wrestling games weren't really that much of a thing then, and they saw Hulk Hogan on the cover, and they had to have it. So this is just putting into perspective what these two companies had in their hands with WCW and WWF.
Now, after this, WCW goes and makes a deal. First, with negotiations with EA, which is how you get Backstage Assault and stuff like that. But according to the article, then THQ CEO Brian Farrell told Wrestling Inc. that EA made a very aggressive bid, and at the time, that was it was way outside of what they were willing to pay, even if it's a lot of your revenues. So I guess that goes to show you the discrepancy between EA at the time and where THQ was at the time.
Yeah, and just the importance of these games to all of the companies, because wrestling is an empire. But
yeah, you're 90, 98, 99, 2000. Like, this is like the wrestling boom. Like,
Yeah.
wrestling is at the height, that,
Like, think
you know,
of-
the highest of highs.
not only the program on TV, you're getting trading cards, you're getting toys. Like, you're not just getting those little Hasbros anymore. You're getting the Bone Crunchers, the Titantrons. Like, the biggest stuff is coming out now. The two companies going head to head. It was just a wild time in wrestling, and it showed through the video games as well, because no matter what you thought at the time, WCW's games were light years ahead, and that's because of THQ.
Yeah.
So now
absolutely.
the table has turned. But THQ, when they announced this, that they were no longer with WCW, their shares on the NASDAQ dropped more than 24%. Again, showing how important these games were. Like, oh, this company's done. But if you were to look at '98, WCW was in control of wrestling for at least another year or so before the tide turned and WWF took over as the juggernaut that we know and love today. Love is in quotes, because I don't know if most people do anymore. But these numbers are just crazy. Like, you wouldn't think that wrestling would be just something so big for, like, the stock, affecting the stocks by 24%, and like all the revenues from WCW versus the World. That's massive.
Yeah, I don't think that at the time people understood the weight that wrestling had in terms of like popularity. It was just like, oh yeah, that's that, you know, that fake stuff that my grandfather used to watch, or like my dad was really into. Like, they're not really understanding the popularity of it until they start to see the revenue kick in. Where like, you've heard so many times in the past from other companies where they're just like, you heard a lot in the Toys That Made Us, where people were just like, yeah, we signed up to make toys for WCW, or we signed up to make toys for WWF at the time. We didn't know what was going to happen. And then all of a sudden we're just like, and then they sold like crazy, and we made a ton of money, and they were very popular.
And now they're Power Town and all of that. Yeah, it's just such a massive thing, and to think where it is now from where this was, and this is what got us here, so it's crazy.
Yeah.
But now we're gonna enter another company that you're gonna go, huh? Because Jakks Pacific enters the fray, and we're gonna get to that in a second. So when the THQ, when they officially were dropped by WCW in March of '98, Acclaim didn't even know that they weren't being renewed by the WWF. So that's another thing that goes kind of hand in hand here. So On March 25th, James Bell, remember that name, James Bell, then the WWF Senior Vice President of Licensing and Merchandising, told Acclaim that he wouldn't even entertain any of their offers. He was done with the company, and that's kind of like a head scratcher. It's like, you're just done. You're not entertaining offers. Like, why? Why? Like, did you have something in mind? Who knows? So he recommended to the higher-ups at the WWF that the video games license should go to Jakks Pacific, who is their, as you know, their action figure company, to have everything in one place.
But let's talk about what Jakks is known for, I guess, besides the wrestling figures, because, again, something that we played in in the archives, plug-and-play video games.
Yeah.
Not even like full console releases, like 3 wires, all in one consoles that you hook up to your television. And now they just acquired the video game licenses to WWF.
Yeah, and that's not really... I don't know. That's not someone I would want to really
that's crazy.
Have as like a main publisher of games, especially we've played them and we know how they turned out. So Bell actually admitted in 2005 there was... Listen, we know that there's a lawsuit. We all heard about it. It went on for a very long time, and he admitted in his 2005 plea agreement that there was a scheme hatched in January of 98 where Jakks would pay bribes and kickbacks to him and third-party WWF licensing agent Stanley Schenker to direct the video game license to them, to Jakks Pacific. And the court case is a little nuts. It's a lot of back and forth. There's really no clear winner and loser. It's just kind of a big jumbly mess, but
that's really where things got like I was telling you earlier today. I read this article twice. I listened to it, and I understand and follow everything up to the court case, and then once it gets into the court case and the legalese starts coming out, I was just, oh my God. It was like, I felt like the kids in Charlie Brown, when all you hear is wah, 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 wah.
Oh yeah, I read it a bunch of times before, summarizing it here for us. But yeah, so pretty much Jakks had their hands in the pockets of Stanley Schenker and James Bell from the WWF, and that was unbeknownst to everyone apparently. So they just kind of flew under the radar, said, "Hey, we're putting Jakks in charge," and that's it. So let's go back a little bit. On April 7th, the chairman of Activision wrote to Bell and the WWF and said that Activision was prepared to secure the WWF rights, and they had a decent deal on the table. And it was apparently a lot more than the Jakks and the THQ deal and all of that. And they kind of hid it from their WWF bosses, and they didn't even tell them that tell them that the offer was on the table. So that's kind of also something that makes you go, what if? What if Activision did sneak through and the higher-up said, hey, we want Activision as the licensee? Where would we be today? Would they still have it? Would we be playing 2K? What would we be doing?
I feel like that's going to be the big thing that comes out of this. Like at the end of this whole thing, once we're reading and going through all the whole court case and hearing everything that happened, the big thing is going to be, wow, can you imagine if this had happened? Where would we be? Or, one small change, maybe Acclaim has the license for a little longer. Maybe THQ has the license for a little longer. Maybe we end up getting, oh my God. Maybe we end up getting Backlash for the N64. Maybe Backlash ends up being on the GameCube.
Ooh, yeah. But I'm looking right now at like Activision games from like the 80s to 99, and nothing like stands out to me as like this could have been cool feel of a wrestling game. There's like Tony Hawk, of course.
Yeah.
But even that wasn't like that well detailed out and enough to say like, oh, that would have looked cool in the style of a wrestling game. I don't know. I'm sure some and a lot disagree with that statement, but it's hard to see because we never got it. Activision as a major player here.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously they're well known for like doing Spyro and
they did Spyro?
I think they did the first one.
You would know. You're the Spyro guy here.
I do believe that they were Spyro. It's Vicarious Visions and Vicarious Visions is Crash Bandicoot. Spyro the Dragon.
Spyro is Insomniac.
Is Insomniac.
Yeah.
Why does it come up when you search Activision games?
Yeah, who knows with Google.
Thanks, Google.
Anyway, we're going to get to now the reasoning behind all of this. So James Bell claimed in 98, I was facing the conclusion of my divorce and at the same time, without realizing, suffering from the effects of bipolar disease, Lyme disease, sleep apnea, all of which been diagnosed sequentially. I irrationally thought I was facing financial ruin. So that's the reason. It clearly seemed like a desperate person, and he had the opportunity to get some money under the table, and he took it to better his life. And that's, I think, mostly why some people would do it. But, of course, it's no excuse. And now he said, at the time, Stanley Schenker told me that he could assist me by sharing the commissions he was receiving from WWE, which he said were more than he could have ever imagined. So in order to do all this, all they needed was that Jack's license.
Huh.
Now, in Bell's affidavit, the idea that the Acclaim license was not to be renewed had actually predated the Jack scheme and came directly from Vince and Linda McMahon, which kind of changes everything. And you don't know if that's the truth, if he was just pointing fingers, because as far as we knew, this was all hidden from the higher-ups, but you never know if Vince took a look at the paper and said, fuck it, go with Jack's. And you just don't know what came of that, or if words are skewed.
Or how it was presented. Maybe they didn't have all the information, and it was just presented by in a different way to them. Like because
this is really the only time Vince and Linda even come up in this whole article.
Well, it's like they say, there's the three sides to every story.
Yeah, exactly. Now,
also, I figured out why Spyro comes up when you search Activision, because Activision owns Spyro now.
Oh,
they own it now.
They still make those games?
I don't know. I know that Activision acquired it in 2008, and the last one that came out was the Reignited trilogy, which came out during the life of this podcast, because I remember us talking about it.
Last I played was Ripto's Rage.
I want to say it's like 2018, 2017, something like that.
The Game Marks podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, providing precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. The Performance Package 4.0 has arrived, and oh man, is it a game changer.
It's the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. The Performance Package 4.0 comes with the Lawnmower 4.0, body hair trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, below the belt toner and deodorant, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold all your goodies.
It's definitely holding all my goodies, if you know what I mean. Over 7 million men worldwide trust Manscaped with their grooming needs, and we've got an exclusive offer for all of the Game Marks out there. You can get 20% off your order and free worldwide shipping just by using the code GameMarks at manscaped.com.
Unlock your confidence and always use the right tool for the job with Manscaped. Manscaped.com and use code GameMarks.
Okay. So back to Bell. He says the Acclaim deal was 8 years prior to his involvement with the WWE, so he had nothing to do with that. And as a part of his agent separation agreement with... I'm sorry, this is Al Khan now of Leisure Concepts. He says as part of his separation agreement, Leisure Concepts was to continue receiving their 30% commission on the Acclaim license. And later, Leisure Concepts became the WCW license agent, and it was more than annoying to Vince and Linda that the licensing agent for their prime competition was making money off of their video game license to use against them. Thus, I was instructed by them that they were not going to renew the license under any circumstance. So that is why Acclaim is no longer going to be there. And sure, I guess, sure.
It's such a weird thing.
It's all. This is all a weird thing. And
everything
again,
about it is just
I am sure we are not doing this article any justice. So, like we said, go to Wrestling Inc. and check out David Bixenspan's article titled the same as this podcast. And of course, we're going to post it in the link to our social media post for the week and in the description of the show, wherever you're listening. So In May, the deal would be done. It was ironed out between WWF and the new Jax THQ partnership with a formal proposal sent by Activision on May 12th, never being forwarded to senior WWF leadership. Now, THQ never spoke to WWE directly. They only dealt with Jax Pacific. So that's kind of cutting out the middleman because they know they're like doing some wrongdoings here. And
I would say you do that when you were aware of the shady things that you're doing.
Right. Now, I don't know if you were the same way when you were younger and you saw, even up until yesterday when these notes were done and I read the article, I was always so confused why Jax Pacific was on the video games.
Yeah.
Their logo was everywhere. They had that. You could see their logo coming with those two little screws being put in place going, whatever it was. Yeah. Like, we all know it. And I think we all scratched our head. Like, why is Jax Pacific on this game? Like, what did they do? What was their involvement? We all always heard THQ, but we never heard why Jax had anything to do with them. Like, oh, well, I guess there's just because they make the toys. I don't know. So now we know why they had.
Well, to Jax, I don't want to defend Jax Pacific here, but LJN
Neither did
was
the
both.
lawyer. But that was a publisher.
Well, LJN made toys, and then they also ventured into the world of video games as well. So it was like not unheard of for a company that did one to do the other. It just how you get to that point was a little different.
Right. So on June 11th of 98, this is when they announced the new deal. They both put out their own separate press releases. THQ's stock went back up to 11% from where it was. And THQ, Brian Farrell, that's the former president we spoke of earlier, said he didn't know of the bribery at the time, but WWF execs insisted on the structure of him dealing directly with Jax. So I'm sure he was talking to Bell and what's the other guy's name? Schenker. And they were said, nope, you're going to deal with this is who you're dealing with. So, and that's it.
Now to add and make this even more confusing, now we're going to jump back over into Acclaim.
Add insult to injury to this poor company.
So Acclaim gets hurt financially when the THQ Jax WWF title WrestleMania 2000 comes out. So that's what? 3.5 months after the release of Attitude. And like John just mentioned before, then THQ CEO Brian Farrell recalled that there were definitely talks. There were definitely talks with ECW, but he couldn't remember how far they went. But
let's go back for a second. Imagine having WWF Attitude. It's not the best game.
I don't have to imagine it. I just remember it.
Right. But then 3 months later, the game you loved, Revenge, is now coming out as WrestleMania 2000, new and improved, new wrestlers, a different company. It's just like, why would you play Attitude if that was your option?
And that's exactly what I did. I just went, oh, well, not playing Attitude anymore.
And it was always weird. Like, why would these come out so close to each other? And this is why. And you know what's funny? I'm actually looking up at my posters right now. Here Comes the Pain, Jax Pacific, THQ, Ukes. Raw for Xbox, Jax Pacific, THQ. WrestleMania the arcade game, Acclaim. Like, this article is defining like our childhood games right now.
I don't think you realize how often that logo pops up because you're just like, oh, it looks like this.
Yeah. We all just know it.
I don't think as kids we go, oh, THQ is the reason that this game looks like this, or AKI is the reason that this game looks like this. You just go, oh, this game, WrestleMania 2000, looks a lot like Revenge, and I really liked Revenge. I don't know why they look the same, but I want to play that one because I had a really great time the last time I played the game that looked like that. Whereas it was kind of the same thing with Attitude and Warzone. You'd see Warzone, and if you loved Warzone, when Attitude comes out, you like that.
But then it's just the same game over and over. It's like, oh, the only difference is it tells me the moves.
Yeah.
So, okay. Acclaim. They went to HHG, which is ECW's parent company. And this is where they were kind of surprised to get the news that it was owned by Paul Heyman. He owned his own parent company, which was compiled of like different names and companies and people within. So that was a little sketchy to begin with. And Acclaim alleges that on April 30th of 99, ECW accountant Eugene Charwowski provided them with fraudulent ECW financial projections, resulting in a lawsuit. So I guess they did not follow the product and know the path ECW was taking at the time. Also crazy because ECW was technically on WWF's payroll for a little bit too around this time.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. So this is kind of also dipping into, like, so right now they forecasted a profit of $500,000, $500,000, where they lost $2,500,000 during this period. They struck a deal. They wanted the game license. Acclaim also bought 15% of ECW in August of this year for $1.5 million and a $1 million loan. But then ECW started asking for more loans before the game was even released, which I think the total was a little over $500,000. This was to make payroll, and they used pay-per-view payoffs as collateral. So think about this. Paul Heyman is going to Acclaim for loans, but probably also going to Vince for loans as well at the same time. He's getting all this money in, but nothing's coming out. And this lawsuit was finally settled between Acclaim and ECW August of 2005 during Acclaim's bankruptcy. And so nobody won.
And then not too far after this,
and I'm sure Vince was the one paying that lawsuit.
Yeah, I was going to say I think this is also. I'm probably wrong. When does ECW like officially get acquired?
2000, I think. 2001 during the invasion.
Following this, that's when. Oh, no, that's the relaunch.
But they did use it as like kind of a farm system. Like
they
Kurt Angle was on there, Lita, Scott Hall. They was all connected.
The assets of which WWF acquired in 2003. So I think Invasion is a part of. Yeah. Wow.
Well, that was 2001, so I guess it officially...
It's a part of the partnership that you were talking about, and then like the official acquisition probably happens in 2003.
Okay, that makes sense. So now WWE is now suing Jax and THQ. I think the cat's a little out of the bag here. They sued them on Racketeering, Influence, and Corruption Organization Act, which is a RICO case. If you've watched The Dark Knight, you know what a RICO case is. If you could try them all, you could try one, try them all. Jax, of course, was in denial, said they didn't do anything wrong. And THQ, in their own press release, stated that pretty much they had no direct involvement in this. They did no wrongdoings, and they're going to see where the lawsuit takes them, which is kind of true, but how dumb can you be to not know all of this stuff? Now, WWE only alleges that THQ executives should have found the bidding process unusual and recognized that something was wrong. And they did not. They just said, okay, we'll work with this company, Jax, and that's it.
You hear all of the crazy demands that the WWE has made over the years, like, to hear something like this, like,
This is probably one of 30 lawsuits they had this year.
Yeah, but, all right, let's see, and let's break down how all of this finally ended up resolved here with the court results. Bell was indicted in federal court with his pre-negotiated guilty plea on the mail fraud charges. Bell admitted to the kickback scheme with a co-conspirator who we talked about before, Stanley Schenker.
Ooh, snitches get stitches.
Schenker, meanwhile, was indicted in federal court on June 6, 2006 on conspiracy and wire fraud charges. And then Schenker paid approximately $950,000 to Bell in secret payments between 1998 and 2002, which was approximately half of the money. And in total, it was $1.9 million.
And that was just his commission off this deal. That is...
Again, if you haven't by now gone and looked up this article, the lies and lawsuits that changed wrestling video games forever, you need to read this in its entirety. Michael Bixenspan does an entire...
David Bixenspan.
Oh, sorry. Michael Bixenspan
David!
David! I thought I said his last name wrong. David Bixenspan does an amazing job summarizing this and giving so much detail, and it's just a crazy read.
It's a crazy read. But now there's another lawsuit coming again to Jax and THQ over the Japanese version of the SmackDown game. So in the middle of all this, WWE files another suit because they illegally sublicensed the SmackDown games to Yuke's in Japan to sell as exciting pro wrestling. We've played them. They are not good. Now, here's a familiar name, someone we know and love. In March of 2020, only 3 years ago, Justin Leeper, a former THQ employee, friend of the pod, go back and listen to his episode. He shares all of this. Said that the litigation ended with THQ being found to have clean hands once again in this Japanese case. He explained that this led to the creation of THQ Japan, where he worked with the goal of keeping tabs on Yuke's, so they didn't pull any more stunts that could put the WWE license at risk. And in addition, he added that a deal was made to prevent Yuke's from working on non-WWE wrestling games, which they had last done with the May 2007 release of Wrestle Kingdom 2, which is on the Day of Reckoning engine. So Yuke's is just being Yuke's.
It's such a... Like, we've talked about, like, tangled webs and stuff with, like, storylines and how things happen. This is the most tangled web I think we've ever covered in anything on this podcast.
Lawsuits are, honestly. That's what lawsuits are. But
man.
At least if we're not painting a clear picture, we're painting a picture. Like a little courtroom sketch.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, so after 5 years, this is the result.
Only 5 years.
It was back and forth. 2009 was finally the end of this. THQ beat Jax in both Delaware State Court in 2009, as well as the other court case we just spoke of. Jax made an effort to see their books with the argument that THQ's UFC video game competed directly with their WWE game, saying, they're kind of leaving them out and they should have a cut probably because they're similar, which graphically, they were similar. Play styles, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, I would say, but play style, it's not even close.
Right. Now, yeah, Jax failed to extend the license as well with the WWE, which I think... I'm not sure... This is the wrong podcast. I'm not sure where the figure license came out. It might have been a little later than this even.
I'm going to Google it.
Yeah, Google it because... We all know at this time, if you listen to the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, which is a part of our world here at the Major Pod Network, the figures were not good towards the end. They were lacking paint. They were lacking logos. And it was like you knew it was a fire sale. And everything was coming out of... It was all going out of business.
So according to the Google machine... production of WWF/E-Toys began with Jax Pacific in 1996 and ended in December of 2009.
Okay, so yeah, right around this time.
Yeah.
So now, eventually in December of 2009, all three parties, WWE, Jax, and THQ, issued a joint press release announcing the settlement of all of the litigations, as well as THQ fully getting the video game license to themselves for 8 years, effective on January 1st, 2010. And we all know that's kind of the end of the end here. So as a resolution here, THQ will pay WWE $13.2 million, and THQ would be paying Jax $20 million over the next 4 years to get out of their deal with them. So Jax isn't just going away; they have to be paid off here.
Yeah.
And as we know, THQ filed for bankruptcy in December of 2012. Their last game being WWE 13. They sold the WWE license to 2K Sports in February of 2013, which is still going today. And now Nordique Games bought the THQ name and some of their other properties out of the bankruptcy proceedings, rebranding as THQ Nordique in 2016, which is now producing with Yuke's the AEW Fight Forever game. So it all leads to today. It's all, oh my God, this is all intertwined and whatnot. So something we forgot here, and about how this was all outed and came to be. Stanley Shanker was not the smartest guy. So we spoke about his separation agreement with the WWF, but he admitted to perjury during this court case. And in that court case, he produced documents and accidentally included the records of his kickback payments to James Bell. And that's how WWF found out about the bribery scheme. What? This is just a whole who's who of dumbasses. If Red Foreman was here, he would call them all dumbasses.
So, this is my question to you. Do you, and I guess this could be the Play It Forever, Future Endeavor, time to play the games segment. Does this make you more excited for AEW Fight Forever, knowing how all of the shit that THQ has had to go through over the years to now know that it's THQ Nordique?
I don't think it affects me in the game at all. I think I'm excited to see THQ back in like wrestling form of video games, just for nostalgia reasons. But that's
100%.
That's really it. I'm excited for the game regardless. So.
Oh yeah. But I didn't know if maybe reading this, talking about it, going through this, seeing everything that THQ has gone through, affected whether it made you more or less excited, and why.
Yeah. I'm excited. And, of course, the UFC license, we could talk about that, too. THQ didn't have that very long. That went to EA Sports.
EA Sports as well.
Yeah, which made the game, I think, better. But, okay. That's our deep dive here. Please, again, we'll say it again. Read the article. The Lies and Lawsuits That Change Wrestling Video Games Forever. We posted the link. It's in the description by David Bixenspan, Wrestling Inc. It's a great article. We didn't do it justice. Go read it word for word. Make your own assessments. Let us know what you think. George, are you ready to stay in court? It's time to enter the soft lock.
I've never been more nervous for a soft lock in my life. All right, Soft Lock is a weekly segment where a megamark from our Patreon gives us a topic to debate, discuss. You can call it the question of the week if you'd like. But today, the Soft Lock topic comes from Tecker, Sean Cummings. Tecker says, with Sami Zayn heading to the tribal court, what is one thing that you would take each other to Game Marks court over and argue your case?
So,
this is where John takes out the really long
I got
scroll.
the Jericho list here, but no, we're going to do this. I listen to Taste Buds with Sal Vulcano, Joe DeRosa, as the Swaggo who sends them the wrong T-shirts. They do... So they get super heated at each other every episode because they both take different stances. So to make it easier, they do two things. In the beginning of every episode, they both chant, "It's time to get salty, it's time to get salty, it's time to get salty," and they take turns throwing one insult at the other that you can't get offended about. And it's usually something really funny. And then at the end of every episode, after they verbally abuse each other, they have to say, "No matter what happens, I love you." And that's it. So they because they were like, we're taking it home with us. We're getting pissed. We're texting each other after, like, "You asshole." So they needed to do. We're not like that. So we don't need to.
I think the problem with us is that we're too similar.
I think we get one each here. We get to throw something at each other. It doesn't have to be. I'm not gonna. I love you. I'm not gonna hurt you here. I'm gonna make it funny.
All right, you go first.
Anytime. My Rolodex is spinning with which one. George, you couldn't manage to save a file in the right place if you were stuck on a desert island with electricity with one laptop, one file, and one Dropbox. It would still be nowhere to be found. It's a weekly struggle.
Yeah, you're not wrong about
Sometimes
that.
A daily struggle.
It's the amount of text messages that I get from John that are just, hey, did you put this video or this picture on the drive? And I go, it should be there. No, I just looked and it's not there.
And then he says, oh, no, I did it. And then he'll post it, but it has the YouTube watermark. Like he just ripped it and says, no, I did. It was there the whole time.
It was there. I put the YouTube watermark there. Did you not know that I do that all the time?
All right.
No, but eventually I did find that file.
All right. All right, throw it at me.
I don't have one.
Come on.
Honestly, you know what my biggest complaint about you is? You let me get away with too much shit.
All right, fine. I'll bring my hammer down.
Like this like, you know, me mislabeling things or me not putting things on the drive. It's not new. This is just something that we've been doing, but it's just I try really hard to be better at it. It works for like a week.
I just curse in my head. It's fine.
And then eventually it goes back. But yeah, your biggest fault is that you let me get away with it. Because there are some things, don't get me wrong, there are some things that you've done that I went, John, we can't do this. Like, it doesn't work this way. And there's definitely been things that I've done that you'd be like, we cannot do this. Like, there's no way that we can continue to do the podcast if this happens. So, like, we are... That's something that I think that we're really good at. And the reason that this podcast works so well is that when shit comes up, we pretty much, like, squash it immediately. Where it's just like, you did this... Like big things, little things like me not putting a file in the right place is like, it's an annoyance, but like it doesn't make or break the podcast. But there are some things that have come up where you've called me out and be like, George, we can't do stuff like this. There's not like, I won't do the podcast if we do stuff. And there's been times that I said the same thing to you, but like, that's why this works is because we don't let things like boil over to the point where we're just like, oh my God.
No, I'm a pretty brutally honest person. So no matter what happens, I love you. No matter what happens, I love you.
Too.
All right.
I wouldn't want to do this for 3 years with someone that I didn't get along with and I didn't love. So
we got Moe's today. It was great.
It was great.
All right. Enough of that.
All right.
Tell us what we're playing next week.
We're going to throw it back. We're going to go back all the way to like the beginning first year of the podcast. I'm going to give you 3 games and you're going to pick on the spot what we're playing.
Okay.
So we have the option of playing WWE SmackDown versus Raw 2007. We have the option of playing WWF Attitude for the Game Boy. Or we can play... Fire Pro Wrestling or Super Fire Pro Wrestling 2.
I think I need a break from the Fire Pro Wrestlings after last week.
Okay.
I'm going to say SmackDown versus Raw 2007.
Hell yes.
A lot of meat on the bone there. A lot of people's favorite game. So
that's very true. I think we've played it. We've played 6. We've played 9. And I think that we actually ended up playing one on a live stream.
We played the SmackDown versus Raw, I believe.
Yes, and I think we ended up playing one that we didn't play, like we didn't do a full coverage episode on a live stream a couple years ago. But it may have even been this one. But that's it. You heard it. Next week, SmackDown versus Raw 2007.
That's going to be a good one.
But with that, guys, make sure to go and check out youtube.com/GameMarksPodcast for the weekly playthrough videos for every game that we play, some exclusive content, and a whole lot more. GameMarksPod.com/shop for all of our exclusive merchandise. ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod for all of our shirt designs. I put the finishing touches on 3 new shirts. I'm going to send them over to Johnny Clash for approval, and once he gives me the okay, those bad boys are going up. Patreon.com/GameMarksPod for this podcast early and ad-free at GameMarksPod on all forms of social media. And please make sure to like, to comment, to subscribe, and of course, ring that notification bell.
Wait. Dun, dun. Dun, dun. Okay.
This is a new segment called John Plays Songs on the Bell.
We talked about a guy named Bell the whole time, and I never rang the damn bell.
Once.
Oh, my God. Redo the episode.
Welcome to the... Oh, God. All right. Where was I? Oh, leave us a 5-star review on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you want, you can enter that contest. Leave us a review. You can win that beautiful Edge Elite figure. And if you have a product or service that you would like to advertise on this podcast, please reach out to us at GameMarksPod@gmail.com. You've rang the bell. You took me to Wrestler Court. You've recalled how you went an entire episode with not ringing the bell. And now I would like you, Johnny Clash, to do that thing.
Game over. Marks.
Game Marks Podcast, put them on the radar. Playing rare games, Sega Saturn, no Game Shark. Johnny and George work hard and they play hard. Future endeavor games and put them in the graveyard. From the deep dive to the clash at the feast. How can I get more? That's question of the week. Follow on Twitch, there's nothing that they won't play. Game Marks Podcast every single Monday.